So starting off with some few framing A's of flexible working hours, like a flexible working week are temporary changes in an employee's regular work schedule in order to adjust. And to the normal business hours is the wide belief that employees should have a fixed time frame during their work. Third is that in the status quo where people enter a new career, adjusting is crucial. Otherwise, it would be hard for them to adjust to their work. And in the long term, adjusting is crucial to ensure that they remain at their position and they still love it. Fourth is that a flexible working week refers to having the same amount of work hours, just having them at different times, rather than in a status quo, which is mostly like a 9 to 5 or a 9 to 9 like hours, which is fixed in an office. This debate should be framed around benefits of having adjustable, flexible hours instead of how much hours someone works for. So in a society, as technology advances and as new Gen Zs enter the employment market, it's important to make changes to our working hours instead of a fixed frame in office to more flexible hours and create benefits for the workers, for society, and for the natural world as a whole, which I will elaborate later in my speech. So our argument one here is on workers' benefit on mental health. So in this stressful and fast-paced society, mental health is a big struggle for many people, and a major contributor to this problem is the stress and pressure from work. And we solve the flexible working in two main ways. A is more control over life, and B is a better work-life balance. Flexible working hours lead to a better mental health by reducing stress associated with rigid schedules and long commutes, allowing employees to manage their time and personal commitments more effectively. This increased autonomy and balance contributes to lower anxiety levels and improved overall well-being. Three layers of analysis here. A is allow a more diverse work style. Different people have different approaches of working. Some may prefer to be organized, while some may not, allowing them to decide based on their own work style. This is empowering workers to feel more comfortable about themselves and not pushing them to limits that they find hard to adapt to and hard to bear. And so we tell us that under this scenario, we're able to ensure that every employees can work comfortably, do their best without feeling overwhelmed and bad about themselves if they're forced to make changes in a dull, like in a non-flexible fixed work style. B is a better work-life balance, which is super important in today's society. First, on better time management, on prioritization. Flexible working encourages employees to prioritize tasks effectively, focusing on high-value activities during their most productive hours. Second is on goal setting. Employees can set and achieve their personal and professional goals more efficiently, aligning their work hours with their peak productivity times. Because this can also help to solve the issue of burnout. How does this happen? So like basically under like a fixed like work style, like everyone has to sit in the office and work for 8 hours. Like people might feel unmotivated and it's hard for them to focus because many hours they're being burned out, they're feeling extremely tired. Under the flexible schedule, they're able to work like when they're feeling the most efficient and thus improve their productivity and efficiency overall. All right, C is on job satisfaction and motivation. So it tells us like under this flexible working style, we're able to ensure that employees who have autonomy over their work schedules like they're going to feel more valued and trusted by their employers. This can foster like a working environment which is positive, where individuals are motivated to perform well and contribute to organizational goals. Increased job satisfaction can also correlate with like high engagement in work and overall mental well-being for the workers, which benefit them as a whole. The impact is twofold. A is a happier population. We believe that like under our narrative, we're able to ensure everyone can feel happy, satisfied about themselves. They're able to live a life with their work happily and also gain enough time for family, friends, and activities that they enjoy doing. This can lead to a circular society where for mental health, where people like we're able to decrease anxiety, stress, we're able to improve people's self-esteem without forcing them to be suppressed by their employees under a fixed schedule. This will also help to raise the overall productivity of a country due to the improvement of the labor force. With more productivity, people they are going to increase the overall efficiency. We're able to create more wealth in a short amount of time, whereas people are feeling happy. They can also devote more money and time into other entertainments, which also boosts our economy and increases circulation. Now, second argument is from the economic perspective. A, on international collaboration. Flexible working hours enhances international collaboration by allowing employees to work across from different time zones seamlessly. This enables real-time communication and coordination among global terms, facilitating quicker decision-making and more efficient project management. By accommodating diverse time zones, companies can leverage global talent more effectively, driving innovation into managing a competitive edge. B is on reduced turnover for staff. From all the benefits that we already proved prior to about productivity, we saw that the direct benefits that this causes is that staff will have an improved mental health and thus turnover rates will decrease. Reducing staff turnover rates through flexible working hours positively impacts the economy by lowering the recruitment and training costs, which allows companies to allocate resources more efficiently. Experienced employees enhance productivity and operational efficiency, while stable, satisfied workers can can boost morale and engagement, driving innovation and high quality work in a short amount of time, thus also boosting efficiency. Additionally, retaining knowledgeable staff improves customer services, fostering also a better customer satisfaction and loyalty. This stability helps companies achieve economics of scale as experienced employees optimize process and outputs more effectively. Ultimately, higher retention rates contribute to the economic stability by maintaining a more skilled and experienced workforce. Is there any POIs? 3, 2, 1, no. And thus this will lead to maximum optimization and the best resource allocation for firms, which leads to economics of scale and thus generates economic growth within the industry. Is that POI? Oh yeah. So thus we believe that we benefit our work from two perspectives. A is from the workers and B from the world. We're able to produce a wide impact of school magnitude and on time frame from the workers. Not only do we ensure that we're not suppressed in life, so you're able to feel happy, we're thus also able to maximize the impact from a small individual towards a wider world. All right, so thus we believe that if you want to achieve a world judge where everyone is happy, where everyone like it's not stressful, where everyone's happy, maximizes to global economic to more global economic growth while also boosting the entire circular economy, the global cooperation, and fewer staff turnout, then we're so proud to urge a ballot for team government. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd first like to start with a few rebuttals and then I'll begin on with my speech. So proposition mentioned that there's like some people prefer flexible time and some people don't. So if that's true, then why is proposition like making it universal? Because what about the people who don't prefer universal flexible time and prefer like uniform business working hours? Like, what about them? Because if you make it universal, then it forces everyone to adopt flexible hours, but some people might not prefer that. So like that's a question we have. And second, proposition says that now with like flexible working hours, you can hire less people to save company resources, but that's not true because the amount of work you get done will only be based on how much workers you have in the first place. So like it doesn't matter how much or how little you have. Like on both words, it's the same. You hire this amount of workers and you get this amount of work done. Okay, so next onto like my speech. First, I'd like to start with like the context of this debate. So why do businesses have fixed hours? They have it for several reasons. First, it's because businesses operate like they don't operate just by themselves. Firstly, there's a business itself, but they also, apart from themselves, they also have suppliers, partnerships, and customers. These are other stakeholders that you also have to take into account, and not just the business itself. Businesses, like they operate basically on a chain and consist of everything. So based on that, I'd like to go onto my first argument. So without universal working hours, there would be too much chaos. In the best case of proposition, even if like certain companies can have some control over their work hours and like unite their own companies' work hours, they still can't manage other companies and other businesses' work schedules because at most you can only control your own company's schedules. And this creates challenges in coordination, communication, and management, especially because as mentioned before, a business does not just operate by itself. Okay, so in the absence of like a uniform working hours, it creates chaos in the working world because first, you don't know who's working and who's not. So there's like issues on like attendance. Second, everyone's working at different hours. So there's a lot of hindrances in communication. And it's just really chaotic in general, especially since most jobs are interdependent and they involve so many like different actors and different people and they come together to like do the work. So that's why we need to make sure business hours are universal so everyone works at the same time. You like just take an example. A company, they know their lunch hours, so everyone goes to lunch at the same time. A business, they know their peak hours, so they can prepare for the most amount of customers at the same time. But with universal flexible working hours, nobody will be there at the same time, and everything will be too unstable, unorganized, and chaotic. Second, my next argument is that there are three perspectives to consider this motion from. First is the perspective of the business itself. In the business, we need work schedules to be consistent because it makes communication between workers a lot easier, especially if you're like communicating with your boss and then your boss is like not even available at the time because they're off or they're on, and like no one knows when they're off or on or off, which is really chaotic. What do I mean by this? Like businesses, they need a consistent work schedule to maintain the best like optimal communication communication and coordination among employees. Having fixed business hours ensures that everyone is available at the same time, everyone can contact each other at the same time, everyone knows who's off and who's on, and it makes it easier for everything, including collaboration, scheduling meetings, and addressing other urgent matters. So as an example, in a corporate office setting, employees are expected to be, like currently, employees are expected to be present during regular office hours for easy management and organization. So this consistency allows for efficient workflow, and it also minimizes the disruptions that differences in work hours will definitely cause. For example, you can track, like as I mentioned before, the attendance of people easily, and even if you want to like find a colleague, it'd be really easy because you know that they're always there. If you have a flexible, universal flexible working time, you'll never know who's there and who's not. And the impact of this is that a consistent work schedule leads to more efficient communication. It reduces delays in decision making, and it just makes management a lot easier in the work environment in general. And besides that, there's also two side impacts of this. First is efficiency, because fixed business hours allow for the best and most optimal efficiency. With a set schedule, businesses can make team decisions, plan tasks, and assign responsibilities more effectively, and which this leads on to the next side effect, which is it optimizes productivity. Because with business, like universal business working hours, there is more, it increases productivity because employees know when they are expected to work, and that way they can plan their tasks accordingly, which minimizes these like unexpected occurrences. Like for example, your colleague isn't there, your like partner is off, your like customer isn't there because they don't know when you're working. And this, without these unexpected occurrences, it optimizes their focus on job-related responsibilities. And as mentioned before, a structured work schedule leads to higher productivity levels and better outcomes in general just for the business. So why wouldn't a business want it? Second, I'll move on to the perspectives of the partners, the suppliers, the customers, the clients, and all the other stakeholders in the chain of businesses. So not just the businesses themselves, it's like the entire workforce. So from the perspective of a partner or from the perspective of a supplier, you're cooperating with this other business, but you don't know when the other business is operating because all their workers have flexible work hours. Some of their deliverers are on time right now, some of them aren't. Some of their managers are on time, some of theirs are not. Like you don't know when, who's on and who's off. So that's another issue because that will also, again, affect cooperation and coordination. And then from the perspective of the clients and the customers, they need to know when the business is operating so that the businesses will appear more reliable in their eyes. And this way, it'll also increase trust between the customer and the business. So this way, like, for example, it's organized and the customer knows that if they order something that they'll get it back on time because of the business and structured like working hours. Like, for example, let's say a customer orders something on Monday, but because of workers' flexible hours says they work only on Fridays to Sundays, then they can only get their order by Friday at the earliest. So that's an issue. So for all these reasons that I've covered so far, like whether it's being too chaotic or whether it like improves efficiency, productivity, and more importantly, because a business is not just one business, it's like a whole chain of stakeholders. For these reasons, you must side with opposition. Thank you.
Judge, in this debate, what the opponents has not been able to realize is that they cannot actually achieve the thing and the rule they want as they framed in the status quo. They say that basically in the current status quo, it's going to be chaotic if we have flexible working weeks and universal flexible working weeks compared to business hour in the current status quo. Judge, we looked at this piece of whole argumentation in your whole speech on chaos and chaotic communication and collaboration does not stand. Thus, we propose the motion. Moving on to rebuttal of their basically the concise constructive speech. Basically, their whole speech is focused on firstly chaos, secondly on how business is basically full of other stakeholders and a chain of different stakeholders as a whole, and thirdly tell you from a perspective of the suppliers. I share through these perspectives one by one. Firstly, they tell about chaos, how basically this will challenge communication, how businesses don't just operate by itself, etc. Judge, we say that this argument does not stand because the opponent has had a vague meaning, a vague definition, and a vague understanding of universal flexible working week. What is flexible working week? It means that basically, as a partner defines to you, it is temporary changes in an employee's regular work schedule in order to adjust. Therefore, Judge, you see that basically every employee in the business still have a basic working time that they have to do. However, the more time or the less time they want to do in a flexible working week is done by themselves. Therefore, there is a time range that they will have to do and be doing on their basically in a company working. Therefore, judge, this is something that opponents has not been able to realize. However, this will lead to less chaos and the scenario that basically deframes you, how the supplier doesn't know if the business is working and coordination will become chaotic doesn't stand, because firstly, it doesn't mean like basically the company won't have anyone in there. Secondly, it doesn't mean that people doesn't know like when everyone will be, because like basically flexible working week is when people will operate and change and temporary changes in which they can adjust to their environment. So firstly, even if you judge don't buy this, we believe our impact outweighs. Why? Because when there are flexible working weeks, as my partner, the first speaker, tells you, this will lead to actually much more productivity, different benefiting the economy at the end of the day. This is something that op cannot achieve. Secondly, Judge, we that this piece of argumentation example of their on their side does not stand. They say that they doesn't even know if the business is working. However, we believe that on our side, flexible working week refers to having the same amount of working hours, just having them at different times rather than the status quo, which in most cases is 9-5. This debate should be framed around benefits of having adjustable, flexible hours instead of how much hours someone works for, as stated my partner in speech. Therefore, Judge, now I see that basically, admittedly, sometimes there might be a bit chaos. However, overall, firstly, there will be much more economic impact and direct practical impact onto the economy. This is something the opposition cannot achieve. Secondly, they say that there will be coordination is chaotic. We believe that firstly, the working week it refers to having the same amount of working hours. Therefore, the other supplier will be able to know when they're at work, because basically flexible working week is determined by yourself. However, there is a limit to which you can do it, and there is a focused and fixed time that you have to be on the work. Judge, we also say that actually in a flexible working hours, you choose whether or not how much you work. You can also be fixed. Basically, the power to choose how much they work is in the employee's hands. This means that this doesn't mean that like basically you have to like basically become fixed or you have to have a flexible working hour. It's not that like that as framed in the opponent's case. Judge, they also talk about business, how the work schedule to be consistent, communication and coordination. Basically, overall, their whole case is on chaos and basically coordination and communication. We proved to you why chaos and chaotic coordination does not stand. We say that on our side. We proved to you with two parts. Firstly, workers' perspectives. Secondly, economic perspective. And we'll prove to you why our practical impact totally outweighs theirs. Judge, we believe that actually, compared with the productivity of the whole country and raising the economy as a whole, and also having a business as a basically benefiting the business as a whole, and also international collaboration, we believe that these arguments totally outweighs their side by saying that firstly, chaos actually won't happen as much as they frame into speech. They're saying too much of the chaos and too extreme. Secondly, with that our impacts truly outweigh in firstly magnitude. And we are caring for example, the international collaboration. We tell you in my partner speech that reducing staff turnover through flexible working hours positively impacts the economy by lowering recruitment and training costs. Secondly, we also win this debate. We also outweigh our opponents on stakeholders. What do we benefit in this debate? Basically, our opponents are saying that they'll be able to benefit the economy. They'll also benefit this business and also the suppliers and the customers too. We proved to why they cannot actually benefit the stakeholders. As stated in my speech, I say that actually they cannot achieve the world they want and the world they frame in this debate because they only tell you about chaos. However, we tell you that we can actually have practical impacts on the economy. They don't actually have any practical impacts on the economy. They only say that basically this will lead to chaos and challenge communication and coordination. However, they don't actually provide any explanation to say why this will actually be helping with the basically help with the economy and other stakeholders in the debate. Therefore, Judge, now you can see that firstly, we outweigh on magnitude. What we're saying, we're actually having practical impacts on the economy. And from an economic perspective, we talk about firstly, international collaboration. And secondly, we said that economic growth benefits governments all over the world as well as people. So we benefit the most people in this debate that outweighs on magnitude on the other side. So in conclusion, so basically, Judge, now you can see that the opponent's side, their sole contention is all chaos and coordination and communication. However, this argument does not stand because firstly, their scenarios are too extreme. It doesn't always happen that way. Secondly, they have a vague understanding of actually what is universal flexible working hours. Basically you decide it by yourself, and also there will be a fixed time that you must be on your business and working there. You cannot not work at that time. Therefore, Judge, now I can see that on our side, we win on firstly practical impact. Secondly, we want on stakeholders, and thirdly, we want magnitude in the space. Therefore, I urge a pro ballot and proudly oppose the motion. Thank you.
In this speech, I'll be providing rebuttals to both the first and second speaker of the proposition team. I'll also be providing 2 arguments and a comparative as to why our world is much better than their world. First, I'll move on to the rebuttals. The first speaker of the proposition team said that allowing your workers to have flexible business hours improves their mental health. However, in this case, the opposite can actually be true, because with flexible working hours, there could be a isolation and a lack of social interaction. Flexible hours often means that employees have the freedom to work remotely or at non-traditional hours. And while this may benefit introverted individuals or those with personal commitments, it can also lead to feelings of isolation and reduced social interaction. And collaborative environments and regular team communication should be fostered. And secondly, there's also a difficulty in setting work-life boundaries. Flexibility can blur the lines between work and personal life, making it challenging for individuals to establish clear boundaries. This lack of separation may result in difficulties in switching off from work-related responsibilities, impacting overall well-being and the work-life balance. The second speaker really focused on saying that our entire argument is mentioned on chaos. He's over-exaggerated this too much, and he's basically saying our entire argument is based on the sole fact that this will cause chaos. However, this is simply untrue. We're just trying to say that it's much harder for workers to work together effectively, to synchronize, and to manage their own schedules. We never said anything, we never explicitly stated anything about chaos. Next, I'll move on to the first argument, which is that universal flexible business hours can have disadvantages for workers, including increased stress levels, a lack of pre-planning or organization, and a dilution of the workforce. Moreover, it can blur the boundaries between work and personal life, impacting work-life balance. When workers have the freedom to choose their preferred time slots, it can create a highly competitive environment where individuals have to fight for certain desirable hours. And this constant battle for preferred time slots can lead to increased stress levels and a sense of uncertainty, as the workers may feel pressure to secure the best or most favorable hours. For example, in a hypothetical scenario, a team of employees in a project-based environment has the option to select their own work hours. In each team member has personal commitments and preferences, leading to a situation where everyone chooses different time slots based on their individual needs, possibly. And as a result, coordination and collaboration become increasingly challenging, and the team members are struggling to find overlapping hours for meetings, discussions, and real-time collaboration. And this lack of synchronization can lead to delays and slower response times. Moreover, universal flexible hours can blur the boundaries between work and personal life. Without a clear separation between the designated work hours and your own personal time, employees may find it difficult to disconnect from work and fully engage in personal activities or take care of their own well-being. This blurring of boundaries results in individuals constantly on call or being obligated to work beyond their designated hours, leading to increased stress, burnout, and a compromised work-life balance. My second argument, POIs later. My second argument is that the societal narrative surrounding universal flexible working hours may create an expectation for individuals to work more, and failing to do so could result in societal disapproval. What I mean by this is that there's often a societal bias towards valuing long hours and constant availability as a maker of dedication and commitment to work. And people who opt for flexible working hours or prioritize work-life balance may be viewed as less committed or less ambitious, leading to potential social stigmatization, professional repercussions, or missed career opportunities. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, many workers initially embraced the flexibility of working from home. They experienced the benefits of reduced commuting time, increased autonomy, and the ability to tailor their own work schedules to their own personal needs. However, as the remote work became the norm, some individuals encountered the pressure to be constantly available, answer emails at any time, and work longer hours to prove their productivity and dedication. Individuals were not only expected to adapt to new working conditions, but also to work more to meet the perceived societal standards. And so much so that some people even wanted to go back to physical face-to-face work. And you should care about this because it highlights the need for a shift in societal attitudes and expectations surrounding the flexible working hours, valuing productivity based on outcomes, efficiency, and well-being, rather than solely being on the the number of hours worked can promote a healthier work environment. And with these set schedules, you have a really easy way of keeping track of everyone's consistent work hours, and it will be more valued. The outcomes will be more valued. Now I'll move on to the comparatives in both worlds, best case and worst case scenario. In our world, with regular business hours and a consistent schedule, the best case scenario is that we have a structured work environment with synchronized employees, seamless communication, and a work-life balance promoting coordination and efficient teamwork. Employees can plan their personal commitments around their work schedule and ensures a healthy work-life integration and overall job satisfaction. However, in the worst case scenario, the rigid adherence to fixed business hours may limit flexibility, potentially causing conflicts between work and personal obligations. However, these employers could strive to accommodate personal commitments and support work-life balance and address these conflicts and promote the employee well-being to maintain a harmonious work environment. In their world, with universal flexible working hours, the best case is that there's some degree of autonomy and flexibility in choosing work hours. And while this may provide employees with the ability to align their work schedule with their personal preferences, it can also present a lot of challenges. This degree of flexibility will introduce a lot of complexities, like I've said earlier, such as synchronizing your work and making it really efficient with other employees, and making it harder for you to set boundaries for your work-life balance. The worst case scenario is that the flexibility of flexible working hours, it leads to increased stress and coordination challenges, and a competitive environment may emerge with employees vying for preferred time slots, potentially impacting work-life balance and overall well-being. In conclusion, universal flexible business hours can actually make a worker's mental health worse. The blurring of boundaries between work and personal life can lead to difficulties in disconnecting from work and maintaining a healthy balance. I'm not sure I have time for POIs, but yeah.
Let's dive into why flexible working hours are more than just a trend. They're a game changer for companies. Imagine a workplace where reduced turnover means happier employees and lower costs, paving the way for innovation and economic development. It's not just about schedules, it's about shaping the future where flexibility fuels success and sustainability. We support this in our world, while our opponents side with the status quo. To start off, I'd like to clear up some misunderstandings of this debate, particularly on the definition of flexible working, which reflects on their lack of engagement to some of our points. As we stated in our first speech, we urge that flexible hours means that there are temporary changes in working hours, which shift on like a time basis, for example, like once a month, if a company decides for that. However, there are always the same amount of work of hours being worked. Our opponents may urge that they only want to work from Friday to Sunday. However, this goes against the definition of the flexible working week. So we urge this debate to be framed around the benefit of flexible hours and not how many hours the workers actually work. So firstly, they talk about like how basically it'll cause a diseconomy of scale, right? However, it'll cause like the same harms as a diseconomy of scale, but we deny this. So we tell you that our side provides unique benefits. For example, firstly, improved coordination. Flexible working hours can actually enhance communication because they allow teams to cover more hours of the day, which facilitates continuous progress and responsiveness. Next, adaptability. The whole point of flexible schedules is that they can adapt it and quickly adjust to changing priorities or urgent tasks, maintaining productivity without being constrained by timeframes. And next, technology as a bridge, right? Because in our side, we can utilize communication tools to effectively bridge any potential gaps caused by these varied schedules, ensuring smooth information flow and this collaboration among the team members. What our opponents are stressing is that flexible hours will directly lead to the harms of diseconomies of scale. We tell you that diseconomies of scale doesn't happen necessarily when this happens, right? Because judge, we tell you that the only that these benefits uniquely come from our world because flexible hours act as a bridge to these things because they allow for hours to be rearranged to the benefit of communication. That is the whole point of flexible hours. So when this is an easily fixable solutions, our opponents cannot argue this as their main harm for this, right? So yeah, they can control working hours based on current situation. Sorry. So next, we'd like to stress the whole point of having flexible hours is to make sure that people can collaborate to their best extent. Our opponents stress the benefits of universal hours, but we ask them, them, what about these things at an international scale, right? So right now, it's hard enough to work at an international scale. You'll see people staying up till 3 a.m. to contact people in America, right? So we tell you that because there's so many time zones in the world, the chains of stakeholders of this expand internationally due to the exports and imports across many economies of scale. So they're really criticizing their own system of how basically the rigidity leads to less communication, right? And how businesses actually clash on an international scale due to a lack of working hours that can reflect on the optimization of teamwork between these companies. They never once in their speech actually mentioned working on an international scale. So we get that point as well, because we already proved so and so again how it benefits the international economy in many industries. And we tell you that benefiting the international economy is it's one of the most significant things in this debate, because benefiting the international economy essentially benefits the most amount of people, because it causes for not only economic growth, which is causes for people to be happy, but it also causes for like industries to be benefited.
POI.
No, thank you. So now to mainly talk about the clashes in this debate, right? I think our opponents sort of misunderstood a lot of our points from the rebuttal. I don't think our opponents extensively understand the concept of flexible time, right? The whole point of flexible time is to make sure that they can work whenever they want. If they don't want to work at different times, then that's great for them. They can work the same time as before. But however, the whole point of this is that people are provided with a choice which only exists under our side. Universal business hours doesn't actually exist in the international scale, right? This is because of time zones. Our opponents completely ignore our point on this, and their critique about this basically reflects on the status quo. Now, I would just like to quickly stress why we win this debate and the massive impacts that are unique to only our side, right? So I think this debate is basically split into two things, which consists of the benefits for the workers as well as the benefit for the economy and the firms. Judge, we give you the large benefits for both the society in general and the economy. Our opponents don't really touch upon mental health benefits until their second speech, so I'll be talking about that a bit later, and they do not weigh on how they have a greater benefit than us. Okay, so now for some weighing. So their only critique about it is how there's going to be raised competition and stigmatization, right? They say that there's competition for time slots. However, the whole point of flexible time is you can choose whenever you want, right? Like, of course, people should work together, but work together to optimize the selections, right? If everyone chooses a different time slots, this actually covers more time to work, right? Which is good for them as people. We also tell you that if everyone chooses time slots that accommodate to their own personal goals, they will become happier and the mental health will be better because of the improved work-life balance, as well as many other things we've constantly urged and our opponents have lacked a response to, right? We tell you that productivity comes from being more happy. So even in our worst case scenario, we will still benefit the firm and the individual more. Next, our opponents talked about social stigmatization, as they're basically criticizing the current status quo. However, basically, we believe that a shift in societal expectations to benefit workers should be necessary, right? They say that the whole point of this, they say that the whole harm of this is going to be about how people will feel other people will be unhappy because some people have flexible hours, and that's going to lead to social stigmatization, right? But what we're saying is that we think actually firms should start doing things that benefit workers more, and it's urgent, and we believe that a shift in societal expectations should actually happen in order to make sure that the workers are the happiest, because the workers are the majority of the world, right? So we tell you that if these things shift and they have a positive impact, as we've already proved, then this doesn't create as a big problem, right? And we've already spoken a lot on the economic benefits of this. So the economic benefits are truly significant, both on a national and an international scale. Our opponents completely lack a response to our point about how it benefits the international economy, right? And the national economy, their only point to criticize is going to be about the miscommunication, which we've already not only rebutted already in our second speech, but I've also talked about this extensively, right? And now I'd like to urge on our impact again, right? So our opponents' only impact is that people will be more unhappy and it will cause for the economy to go into shambles. But we tell you that it's the opposite. We've already shown you a very good reasoning for why this won't actually happen, right? And we tell you that these benefits will not only lead to a better life for workers and the general society, but it will also lead to better economic growth for the firms, which benefits the majority. So for all these reasons above, we urge a AF ballot. Thank you.
Okay, let me start with a few rebuttals before I summarize my team's point. First of all, opposition model is self-defeating because they claim that they will only make temporary changes, because that means that you can change your time's working schedule once a month. Okay, first of all, even if it's so important, in our model, you're allowed to apply for a leave. So that works out for that. Second of all, your model like this, it dilutes all the micro impact that Prop was proposing. Because if you change so little, if you only change like in once a month, what impact is this going to bring? They are squirreling third of all, they're squirreling the motion, because it clearly says that you're supposed to claim either universal flexible working hours or the standard working hour norm. It means that Prop has no fiat to suggest that this will only be temporary. They're supposed to choose between one or the other. They have failed to trade off the benefits that our model has offered, that people can choose their working hours. Okay, let's move on. Prop said about that if we had a flexible working hour, we are able to have a work and a job balance and better mental health. Let me rebut this. First of all, in our model, which is technically the status quo, it's untrue that you cannot choose a career with a flexible work schedule, because people can still choose jobs with a flexible schedule if they are really wanting to it. So therefore, our model is inclusive. Meanwhile, look at your model. Your model says it has to be a universal flexible schedule. It means that you're neglecting the people who prefer to 9-to-5 schedule. Your model forces everyone to become the flexible. Then what are those people who prefer 9-to-5 going to do? Third of all, let's look at this. Stress coming from job is because of the job, not because of the working schedule, because your job doesn't change, the amount of time you take to work doesn't change. So I don't see how your model is going to help with dealing with that. And also, let's under your model, apparently people are supposed to be more satisfied and more relaxed. Well, there's two layers to this. First of all, when people are satisfied with their jobs, it means that they have the capacity to decide what are they going to do with the job. Now, there's two layers. First of all, in your model, you're basically forcing people to compete for different slots, because the working hours, the working time is the same. You're just choosing different time zones, right? So what this means that if they're not able to compete well, people may have to choose to take the slots that they don't want to, which means that they have to try out for other things. What happens if your wife works in the morning and you work in the evening? How are you guys going to spend time together, right? There's no work job balance from here. Third of all, your model says that basically intertwines people's life and work extremely together, right? You work in the morning, your wife works in the afternoon. How are you going to spend time together, right? Because you guys work at different time at different days, right? However, in our model, the separation is very clear, because after 5 p.m., you can plan everything of your personal life, right? So I don't see how your model is going to relieve the people's work stress or like have this work-life balance. It doesn't make sense. Also, flexible working schedule means that you're viewed expendable, because as we said, you basically intertwine your work and your life. And it means that you're going to have to answer different things about your job at different times, because it's like so chaotic that you cannot like move your job from your personal life, since you're so flexible. That adds more job. There's no work-life balance at all. Okay, let's move on to the other thing about economic impact. First of all, I'm going to say that the economy is worse in your model compared to us, because the productivity is not increased, it's actually slowed. Why is it like that? Because people work at different time, right? Different time, different day. Basically, you cannot have a uniform set of output when you're producing things. But in our case, in the worst scenario, the output will still be symmetrical, because in both models, people can still work 40 hours per week, right? So basically, in your model, the economic will be worse than ever. But meanwhile, in our model, it will remain the same, and we're preserving the business environment. So let's summarize my teammates' points. First of all, when you have a fixed working hour and a schedule, you can ensure that communication is clear, because as you know, in different time zones, people can actually know, like clients can actually know when this office is available, when this business is available, and different chains in the production can actually know when each other are like available, so they can actually communicate a thing. So you don't have to wait for other people to complete the job before you can do your own. Everyone works at the same time. And second of all, it also means that you have a separation between work and life because you have this fixed schedule. You know that no calls will be happening after 5 p.m. And third of all, it also shows that and third of all, it also means that credible because the clients know when you're available and all the productivity knows when you're available. So that's thing. Okay, another rebuttal that I'm going to do is a time zone. The propositions model says that different people will work in different time zones. Different people work in different times. So the times when like you have in different time zones, this communication will work somehow. But first of all, in our model, it works the same because time zones are fixed. If it's 9 a.m. in UK, we know that it's 5 p.m. in Hong Kong. So everyone knows what time you can communicate at different time zones. Second of all, companies have different teams working in different time zones. The communication wouldn't be a problem in our model. Meanwhile, in your model, everyone's flexible. How do you know who's available and who's not, right? Because different people work in different time. It's so hard to organize it, and that's why your model is chaotic and self-defeating. Thank you.
In the course of this debate, it is important to address how proposition attempted to squirrel the debate by introducing the idea of temporary changes to universal working hours. They argued that the motion only requires a temporary shift in working hours, defining that as what universal working hours means. And this means that it will mostly keep the 9-to-5 model intact. This means that approach allows them to co-opt the benefits of our proposed model while simultaneously criticizing it. By advocating for these temporary changes or small changes, the opposition fails to provide a clear stance on the motion. The essence of the debate is to choose one model, either universal flexing hours or flexible working hours, or maintain the traditional 9-to-5 model. However, opposition attempts to straddle both sides of the argument, undermining the clarity and coherence of their case. Moreover, their proposal to make the changes all small and temporary significantly weakens their position, because if these changes are only temporary, it implies that the benefits that they claim for the workers and collaboration are short-lived. This undermines the potential long-term positive impact that can be achieved through the implementation of actual universal flexible working hours. And their case loses its strength and relevance when their proposed changes are still really limited and small. Furthermore, by advocating for temporary changes while still largely relying on the 9-to-5 model, the opposition fails to address the inherent limitations that this entire thing will have. Many of the criticisms they level against our model, such as coordination challenges or work-life balance, can also be applied to their own case. If they continue to rely heavily on the 9-to-5 framework, they cannot escape the criticisms they attribute to these 9-to-5 models. And finally, I would like to conclude what we've said and why this is better, why the traditional model is better. We have emphasized that once the working day is over, individuals are free to focus on their personal lives without the interference of work-related responsibilities. And this will resonate with workers who may prioritize clear boundaries over work and personal time for their well-being and peace of mind. Additionally, we have addressed all challenges associated with the 9-to-5 working hours, and they've put up concerns about coordination and collaboration, and by acknowledging these challenges and saying that they also apply to their model, we have successfully combated that. And finally, we have our argument is in favor of maintaining the current traditional 9-to-5 model, and this would resonate with individuals who value the familiarity and the stability of these traditional working hours. And by appealing to the status quo and the comfort that comes with a well-established system, we may have gained support from those hesitant to embrace significant changes in their work routines. In conclusion, the propositions team attempts to introduce temporary changes while maintaining the 9-to-5 model ultimately weakens their case. By failing to choose a clear and consistent stance, they undermine the coherence and effectiveness of their arguments, and their criticism of our proposed model also falls on their own case, as they continue to rely on a system that has its own limitations. And it is essential to recognize the importance of choosing a definitive model and evaluating the long-term impacts of these proposed changes. For these reasons, opposition wins. Thank you.
We as proposition, we win today's debate because firstly, we want to impact. Secondly, we benefit the more stakeholders and have much more magnitude than the other side. Basically, Judge, what the other side tells you, firstly, we have less communication and basically collaboration and about chaos. And basically, you don't understand why the second speaker of their side say that they that they didn't even bring out a word of chaos. This is not true. Basically, their sole case is focused on chaos, collaboration, communication. All of these arguments that our team has successfully refuted. Judge, again, I will repeat my partner's speech on why my partner's point on why basically the chaos point doesn't stand. So firstly, we say that we can actually have more spread out time zones. This will solve the problem. Secondly, my partner tells you that productivity still increases. Therefore, overall, as a whole, economy will still be benefited, and at the end, the whole nation will be benefited, and the economy will increase as a whole. And thirdly, on an international scale, we win on this magnitude. The opponent side only tells you, for example, about the businesses. However, we're actually carrying for an international scale. In the international scale, as my partner said in her constructive speech, we say that basically international collaboration, because flexible working hours enhance international collaboration by allowing the employees to work across different time zones more seamlessly. This will actually enable real-time communication and the coordination among global teams. This also basically eliminates the argumentation on their side of saying, for example, isolation, for example, less communication and socialization on their side. So in conclusion, so therefore, Judge, as a result, you see that basically on their side, what the points they bring up. Firstly, it tells you about chaos and chaotic, for example, communication and collaboration. With our three pieces of refutation, we believe that this piece of argumentation does not stand. Then we also bring out, for example, from different perspectives about, like, for example, the suppliers, the buyers, and the business and the economy, etc. We believe that we benefit all of these stakeholders much more better than the other side. Why? My partner stated in her speech how we can actually benefit the economy. In the economy, well, basically, on our side, we can actually successfully raise the productivity because we say that basically that a flexible working hour means that you can actually adjust to the new job. Adjusting to this job is crucial for basically having a higher productivity in the future, because employees and workers adapting to their job and their work is really important for basically the business and also the economy as a whole. As a result, on our side, Judge, we can actually lead to a higher productivity and lead to a higher, for example, the labor force working more and having a higher product at the end of the day. Therefore, Judge, you can see now that because of the fact, firstly, we can have much more practical impact. We benefit the economy as a whole. Secondly, we actually have international collaboration on our side. Thirdly, we benefit the labor force and workers because, firstly, this will benefit workers' mental health. Secondly, this will let the workers feel a much more happy time when they're actually in the company working and becoming an employee. And fourthly, we tell you that actually this will lead to basically higher productivity and benefit the whole economy as a whole. Judge, because of these three reasons, we totally outweigh the opposition side. Opposition basically only tells you about collaboration, communication caused by chaos. However, this piece of argumentation and the scenarios I propose to you does not stand as proven by me and my partners. So in conclusion, I urge a probat and proudly propose the motion. Thank you.